My pleasure, my pleasure. Thank you for the invitation.
Alex, can you give us a brief introduction about yourself?
So, my name is Alex Rambaud. I am half French and half Salvadorian. And the reason that is important to me is because I really got the experience of being raised in two completely different regions of the world. So as a young child, my father used to work for the European Community, which is now the European Union, and he led several financial aid programs for disaffected areas and areas that had been affected by conflict in Central America, in West Africa, in Asia. But we mostly resided in the region of Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras. And of course, we spent quite a bit of our early years in France as well, France and Belgium. And that's where his office was based off. But we would, of course, go back to Central America and move around quite a bit. So we would do 2-3 years in Central America, then go back to Europe, and go back to Central America, and two different worlds, two different realities, and I think that shaped who I am today.
So where were you born and where
Sure.
did you go to school?
Sure. So I was born in San Salvador in 1975, and I started going to school, I believe, when I was 3 years old. But at the time, we had already moved to different places. So as a 3-year-old child, I moved to Morocco for half a year, I believe. And then after that, we moved to Guatemala. And in Guatemala, I went to a French school, and it was called Lycée Jules Verne. And I did
the famous Jules Verne?
Yeah,
The
named after the famous Jules Verne. And I studied from cours préparatoire, which is, I believe, equivalent to the last year of early years in an IB school. Mm-hmm. And I did all of my primary years in that school. So I would have left that school when I was in Xi'an, which is equivalent to, I would say, P6 here at an IB school. And afterwards, we moved back to France, to Nice, which is where my dad's family is from. And I spent 2 years in France, and I came back to Guatemala afterwards, where I did my middle school years up until the very first year of high school. And then I did my last year of high school in El Salvador. We moved back to El Salvador. I graduated also from Lycée Français de San Salvador, so the French lycée down there, and I acquired my French baccalaureate in language and literature. And afterwards, I stayed in El Salvador for about 2 years, and I went to an American university in San Salvador that aimed to prepare children to go abroad, so to do their first couple of years and acquire some credits, and then
Like
apply to other universities. And then I wasn't very interested in going back to France and studying in French, and I wanted to try something new.
So from the beginning, you were kind of global.
Yeah, I think we have a term for that in education. We call ourselves third culture adults or third culture children. And what becomes familiar to you is actually your schooling. You know, that's wherever you go in the world, you'll find similar rules. You'll be learning in a classroom. You'll have a teacher. So the language might change. The context of the country or the culture where you are might change, but you find these familiar aspects in schools. So the schools you go to become your culture. As a child, I think that had its benefits and its challenges. So we were always the new kids. I have a younger brother, I'm 49 years old now, so he's 47, just 2 years apart. And we became very close friends because of that, because we were always the new kids, right? And so in France, we were a bit dark-skinned for French people, you know, so we were categorized with kids that were not French. And whenever we were in El Salvador, we were a bit light-skinned for Salvadorians, so we were always the odd kids around.
What language were your parents talking with you?
So yeah, so my mom always spoke to us in Spanish.
Always.
And always, she never missed a beat. And my father always spoke to us in French. To this day, my mom speaks to me in Spanish and my dad speaks to me in French, and they speak to each other the same way. So my mom speaks to him in Spanish and he answers in French. They are both fluent in their languages, but they just choose to speak that way. And but I realized this when I left home and I went to study abroad. It's that I had acquired 3 languages by the time I graduated from high school, so I was fluent in Spanish. Pues no, hola a todos los hispanohablantes. Pues les quisiera dar ánimos que si quieren venir a China y descubrir un país increíble, con tanta cultura, tanta historia, con comida deliciosa, paisajes increíbles y muchas oportunidades, que no tengan miedo, que vengan y exploren y experimenten lo que es la China. I said that, to everyone who speaks Spanish and is interested in China, to take the leap, come and discover China, discover its people, discover its food, its culture, the magnitude of the country, its beauty, and also its landscapes. It's an incredible country, and it's a land of opportunity as well.
Yeah.
And by fluent, I mean reading, writing, thinking, speaking in French and in English.
Let's go for the French one.
Donc, pour toutes les personnes qui parlent français, je voudrais vous dire la même chose. Je voudrais vous encourager à venir en Chine, à découvrir ce pays magnifique, ces gens incroyables, une histoire et une culture absolument époustouflante, et de ne pas avoir peur de prendre ce challenge et de venir explorer un tel beau pays. Pretty much the same to all French people or French speakers. Come explore China. Don't be shy. Don't be afraid of exploring this magnificent country, its culture, its people, and you might be surprised how incredible this place can be. And then I learned German as I was studying in an American university in Germany, close to Stuttgart, in a small town called Schwäbisch Gmünd. Ich wollte sagen, dass China ist ein sehr schönes Platz und ich freue mich, dass ich in China, ich habe 10 und 30 Jahren gewohnt und ich mag China.
Ich verstehe.
Du verstehst. And I was an avid musician. I had been an avid musician since my early teens. I started playing music, rock and roll, punk rock, heavy metal, at the tender age of 14 and 15. And I carried that with me to Germany. And I couldn't find anyone at the university that wanted to play that genre of music. So I befriended German kids, and I befriended a couple of Greek kids and Turkish kids that were passionate about the style of music that I enjoyed, and we created a band. And I quickly had to learn German, so I didn't learn German as you would in a classroom in a traditional way. I really learned it through the acquisition of language by being part of a group of kids that were into music, and so there was the 4th language. And now I'm learning Mandarin because I've been in China for the better part of 13 years, but I find it extremely challenging. And one of the reasons for that is because I think that in the environment where I work, English is the language of instruction and of inclusion as well, so that everyone can communicate. But I can confidently say that after 13 years, I can have a conversation. I can speak. I can understand what people are talking about. But it is difficult for me to read and write in Mandarin, and hence the characters. And
Okay, here goes the challenge.
okay,
Select whatever you like.
let's see. Ooh, so tones, huh?
Yeah, tones with pinyin characters.
Woo! Okay. Maybe
Let me.
有
You go.
一点多不好。OK， OK， 吃葡萄不吐葡萄皮不吃葡萄倒吐葡萄皮。Was that terrible?
It was.
It was. 对不起，对不起。
1、2、3说。
吃葡萄不吐葡萄皮，不吃葡萄倒吐葡萄皮。
哎，因为我老婆是一个不好的中文的老师。She's gonna kill me when she hears me say that. Again, the tones, I'll try another one. Hong, feng, huang, feng, fen, fen, huang, hong, fen, fen, huang, hua, fen, huang.
I bet Dominic would say better.
红凤凰、粉凤凰、粉红凤凰、花凤凰。
Oh, I'm sure he would. Yeah, it's very challenging. So I acquired English because when I was in primary 6, I had an opportunity to go to South Dakota as an exchange student, and I spent 4 months in the middle of winter in a horse ranch in South Dakota. So there weren't any people there that could speak either French or Spanish.
How was your English at that time?
It was very good already. I was fluent. I was doing very well in my English classes, and I had to speak English. And then the French schools have give you the opportunity to choose one language, one foreign language, and usually you choose English, and that was my first foreign language. And then you can choose other languages, and I had chosen German, although I didn't learn much until I moved to Germany, really.
Until you didn't need.
Yeah, but that's how things worked. I found a school that was affiliated with the University of Maryland from Washington, D.C., that was located in Schwäbisch Gmünd, close 45 minutes away from Stuttgart in Germany. Mm-hmm. And all the classes were in English, not in German. So I thought, okay, so I can access the curriculum here. Yeah. And it was in Germany. So I'd never been to Germany, so why not, right? So I applied to it, and I ended up spending 3 years in that school, and I was studying international relations. So I was thinking of my languages, my communication abilities, and all of that. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, my parents, they couldn't really afford to pay endlessly for me to go to university in Germany, and my grades weren't good enough to score a scholarship. So I dropped out, and I decided to go straight into the workforce. And that is how I became involved with construction, which is a big part of my life as well.
How old were you at that time?
When I believe I moved to Germany, I must have been 19.
You have been in travel every 2 years, right? Am I right?
Every 2, 3, 4 years because of my dad's.
You've been moving a big move, like from this country, moves. From different language to another language.
Different cultures, different
until
languages.
You came to China that you're
here.
Yeah,
so that's it's. I'll tell you the story in a summarized way, but.